The Secrets to Becoming a Successful Solopreneur with Jess Birken, episode 295. Are you ready to make your law firm a profit-generating machine that will free up your time and skyrocket your impact? With more than 2 decades of business growth experience and having proven that you can be successful while prioritizing your family and your impact, introducing the Profit with Law podcast. I am your host, the creator of the Firm Differentiator 10X Effect, Moshe Amsel. Well, hello and welcome to another amazing guest interview here on the Profit with Law podcast. I'm your host, Moshe Amsel, and today I have an amazing guest, somebody who I have been trying to connect with and do something with for a long time. It all started with our first Law Firm Growth Summit. She was supposed to be a speaker, and then Google or Microsoft messed it up with sending my emails to spam. But we finally have her here on the show, and I'm excited. I'm excited to have Jess Birken with me because people who know her know that she's passionate about helping other lawyers, and as part of like her hobby or side gig or passion project. And that excites me. It excites me because there are not enough people out there helping law firm owners. I can't do it all. And neither can any of the people out there who are doing it. We kind of need like a force. And Jess is part of that force, and she's here with us. So I'm excited to have her here on the show. She is a law firm owner just like you. She's the owner of Birken Law Office, and she's a solopreneur attorney, helps nonprofits solve problems so they can stop worrying and get back to their mission. You can find her at Twitter at Jess Birken. And when Jess isn't lawyering, she helps other lawyers to change their lives and their law practices through her Hack Your Practice project. And you can join her Hack Your Practice crew at www.hackyourpractice.lawyer. And that URL, along with any other references or resources that we share on this episode, are going to be listed below in the show notes to this episode in your podcast player. If you don't see them there, you can go to profitwithlaw.com and you can find them there. All right, Jess, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
It's my absolute pleasure, and I'm really excited to dive into this conversation with you. This is one of those, I'm pretty much every interview I do is kind of like unformatted, but this is one of those interviews where you're like, I don't have an agenda. I don't have anything specific I want to talk about. Let's just talk. And I love those because who knows what's going to come out of that. So, you're in Minnesota, I'm in New York, anything can happen.
Right.
So let's first talk about, like, there are people listening who don't know who you are. Shocker. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your backstory, how you ended up doing what you're doing and hack your practice and all that jazz?
Yeah. So my origin story, what is my origin story? Now I'm wearing a cape in my mind. I'm one of the lawyers that like graduated right before the Great Recession. So I graduated in like 2007, and I clerked for a judge. I had the A game resume. I was, doing all the things right. And after clerking for the judge, there were just no other jobs, like at all, because of the recession. So I ended up just saying, screw that. And I went back to school, and I went to business school, and I got a master's in nonprofit management, which is like an MBA for nonprofits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I joke to attorneys that say, well, they don't teach business in law school. And I tell them, yeah, but they don't teach business in business school either. So
that's right. You're not wrong.
I have an MBA, and there's zero coverage of running a small business in the MBA program.
Yeah, that's true. So I ended up working in a bigger national nonprofit for a while, and I was not in-house counsel, but I was not using my lawyer skills either. I was kind of like in their public finance team. I was doing a lot of compliance and a lot of contracts, a lot of real estate deals, and I did that for 4 or 5 years. And then it was kind of a dead end thing where there was no upward mobility for rank or salary, and had a nonprofit. Big shocker, right? So then I ended up leaving and joined up with this other lady who was doing nonprofit law and went into private practice. And then I did that for a few years, and that just wasn't a very good match ultimately as business partners. So I ended up hanging my own shingle, and I've been doing Birken Law since then. And I want to say we're coming up on my sixth year as a totally solo practice lawyer. In March. It'll be my anniversary. And then I do have a staff person, and I have a paralegal, and I do have one contractor part-time associate. So I am kind of growing, but still pretty solo like.
Yeah. And it's funny because I was in a room, and I'm trying to recall where this was, probably one of our coaching calls, or somebody made the comment of, I'm a true solo. I have nobody working for me. And I said, well, actually, a solo just is referring to the attorney. Like, you can be a solo and have a staff of 4 or 5 people, and you're still a solo. Like, if there's no attorneys working there, then you're a solo. And it's almost like it's a badge of honor that, I haven't hired anybody and I'm doing everything myself. And that's the most ridiculous,
work hoarding, dysfunctional person who can't delegate. That's what I hear.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like the dumbest thing that you could possibly say, because how can you make a case for how awesome it is that you are the mailroom clerk?
I don't know. And I mean, here, like, let me just be real with you. Like, I will do everything in my power to not pay a human to do a thing. So I get that, right? Like, I don't want the wage and hour responsibility if I don't have to have it. But also, it's silly to hoard all the work for yourself. Like, you can get so much more done if you delegate to, and I don't care if that's a person or robots through like a Zap, through automation, or a contractor on Upwork, or, but you should not be doing your books, and you should not be tweaking your website. Like, all those things are not glorious. Like, why are you so excited that you're the AR and accounts payable clerk? Like, I don't know.
Exactly. And and the truth is that people don't stop and take a look at the math, right? If you think about it, and the best way for me to highlight this is to use another attorney as an example, right? So if you're a solo and you're a true solo, right? I'm using quotes around that. So I'm doing everything. Well, if you're doing everything, you're not lawyering all the time. So maybe you're billing 500 to 750 hours annually as a solo, right? If you hire an attorney, and let's just take this, you need to have the clients and the work off the table. Let's just assume that comes.
Right.
If you hire an attorney and their job is to only be an attorney and nothing else, how many billable hours can you expect them to have? And I would say the industry standard is probably about 1,800, but I would say that if you're a human and you have a heart in your chest,
right,
that you should probably decrease that to 1,500 so that there is time for them to breathe and eat and actually have some time off. But so a typical full-time employee working throughout the year works 2,000 hours. So if you have 1,500 billable hours, that means that you're pretty much billing, 6 to 7 hours a day in an 8-hour day.
That sounds fair. If I had an associate, I would want that.
Yeah. So if we turn around and say, well, what are you going to bill an associate at? Give me a number, Jess.
Oh, let's say, I'm in the middle of the country. This person's a new attorney.
Yeah.
275.
They side gig as a snowplow driver,
Yeah. Let's just say 250 to make the math easy.
Okay. So 250 times 1,500 is $375,000 of annual revenue that a full-time attorney can be bringing in to your firm. Now, you billing at 750 hours, what's your rate? 325?
It's a lot more than that.
What's your rate?
So this is an interesting side, but I don't do hourly billing anymore.
Okay.
So I haven't actually set an hourly
I
rate for a long time.
I love that. I love that. And I actually don't like hourly billing, but I like hourly for this
Yeah.
conversation.
Let's just say all you bought were like limited scope consultations from me for an hour. Right now they're $450 a pop on average.
Okay. So our full-time attorney is bringing in 375,000, right? And then you at 750 hours times, what did you say? 450 is bringing in 337,000, right? Now, what if you could be that attorney that's doing 1,500 hours of billable work, right? So you have 1,500 times 450, 675,000. Well, what we've highlighted here is a few things. First, we've highlighted that if you bring on an attorney and you only bill them at 275, you're leaving a lot of money on the table. Bill them at 425 or 450, and raise your rate. But the other thing is we've demonstrated that by you owning the other functions, by you not being a full-time attorney, you've left $337,000 on the table.
Yeah. So, and the other thing is, do you actually enjoy the business stuff? Because I find a lot of lawyers are like, I just want a lawyer. I just want to be a lawyer. They claim that they're good at doing all the businessy things, but they're actually not. Like, it's like, well, when's the last time you ran a P&L? And they're like, well, I have to enter the last 5 months of expenses first.
Exactly. I have to catch up my QuickBooks from last year. I didn't need it until I had to do my taxes.
All right.
So I have no idea. Which leads us to like bank balance accounting and why I love Profit First. But anyway, be that as it may, I agree with you 1,000% that you don't enjoy it. You're not good at it. It's going to take you longer than it's going to take somebody else. And what are you sacrificing for it? Like, how many bookkeepers could you have on staff if you just build 1,500 hours a year, right? Like,
I want to say my books, like I pay a bookkeeper and it's less than half of one billable hour of my time. And they know what they're doing and can do it 10 times faster than I can.
And they love it. And you're putting food on their table. And at the same time, you're buying back all that time for yourself. So all this to wrap around and say, like, there's nothing wrong with being a solo and having an army working for you. Like, the art of figuring out how to being a solo is basically saying that I only want a single lane highway. I don't want a 3-lane highway. I don't want to have to upkeep a 3-lane highway. I want a single lane highway. But that doesn't mean that you don't have that you don't get the option of driving a Tesla instead of a Yugo.
Right. Well, and I feel like lawyers, we get very fixed in our mind about what that means. And there are lawyers who are, some of them are good friends of mine, where they're like, I'm adding another associate and more associates and more. And I'm going to scale. And I'm just like, yeah, I don't care. Like, I don't care about that. I don't care about having 100 lawyer law firm. That's not a thing I'm into. But would I like to be a dentist with like 15, technicians? Maybe, sure. And so we get like this idea that like the delegation has to look a certain way, and it really doesn't. Like, you don't have to hire a legal secretary or a paralegal. You could just start with outsourcing your call answering to a service.
Right.
And you're still freeing up your time to lawyer at the top of your license, right? So it's like getting yourself out of that functionally fixed brainwave that we all are on too. Cause like, people don't do the math. Like, you just did all that great math, and it's like, people are not doing that math. Or they
exactly. But that's why I'm here behind this microphone doing the math, right? Because you haven't done it, right? People, not you, but you, the listener,
the royal
you haven't. Exactly.
You out there,
the collective you, both in Minneapolis and Wisconsin and California and New York, right? So let me ask you, Jess, because I clearly have some strong opinions here. What are, like, if you had to pick 3 things that if an attorney is, I mean, let's just say that they're solo, because that's, that's your experience. That's your stomping grounds right now. Right. So let's say that we're talking to a solo and they simply, they're like, I am working my ass off and I've got nothing to show for it. Like I'm taking home a salary that's less than the guy at McDonald's, right?
Yep.
What is the key for them to unlock success? The game is you have to give me only 3 things for them to fix or change.
Oh,
What do you
God.
think are the
Okay.
3 things that if you, from all the conversations you've had with attorneys, you know that most likely these are the 3 things that they can fix and change, and it would significantly move the needle for them?
Well, if they're solo and they have plenty, and we're assuming they have plenty of work and they're just not making enough money, then my sort of gut feeling is it comes down to poor time management.
Okay.
So first thing I would do is say they should read some Cal Newport books. Go look at deep work, because my guess is your smartphone is sitting on your desk and you're checking the Facebooks and you're looking at Twitter and you're like, oh, look over there, squirrel, right? When you should be focusing on the Smith file. So one is to just start to know yourself and putting some boundaries on yourself. There's if you sign up for my pen pals list, I send you this list of 5 apps that will change your lawyer life, and one of them is this app called Freedom, and it's a stupid app, but it'll help you stop using those things that are keeping you from getting done. Can I swear on this podcast?
Right.
Sorry.
I don't know the rules. It's my show, but I have no idea. I think we might have to put an E for explicit on it. I don't know. Just
I'll try not to do that again.
Just do what you need to do. Don't worry about it. We'll worry about the rest on the back end. If we need to bleep it out, I'm sure my editor will figure that out.
Fair enough. So really understanding like where you're losing your time is number 1. And then I think number 2 is guarding the time that you have. And I cannot say enough good things about using online scheduling. I like Acuity. My friend Eric likes Calendly. There's like a baked in one in Microsoft Office that I think is garbage, but if you want to use it, go ahead. The point is there's lots of these solutions out there, and you can protect your time and really make sure that you have the space needed to bill the hours and you're not being constantly interrupted by a client call or somebody walking into your office or whatever, right? And then the third thing would be call answering and just delegating that away immediately. And there's always somebody in the room who's like, well, I just don't get very many calls and I just can't justify the expense. And I'm like, do you not get the spam phone calls that I do? Do you not get, oh, I updated my Avo profile and now Avo is calling me like every 5 minutes for the next 30 days to try and sell me whatever. There are so many calls that we get that are not necessarily clients, but they're still taking your brain away from the focused work that you're trying to do at the top of your license and distracting you with some little thing and the science is, I'm sorry, you're not a good multitasker.
Right.
And the time that you lose between switching tasks is incredible when you add it up over the course of a day. So yeah, do you only get 4 or 5 calls a day? Fine, but that's maybe 2 hours worth of time that you had to like recenter, refocus, get back into the Smith file, figure out where you were, get your train of thought going again. And we're doing deep analytical thinking work. We're doing heavy emotional work. Your work is important and it's not casual when you're doing it, right? So those would be my 3 things.
Hang on. So first of all, you cheated because that's one thing, because time management is one thing. So we're going to still get 2 more. We're going to still get 2 more things from you. But before that, let me quickly plug Smith AI. There are answering service of choice. Go to profitwithlaw.com/Smith AI. We love Maddie Martin, who's here all the time and all the different things that we do. She's the one who connected you and I.
I cannot say enough good things about Smith. I've been with them for like forever and it's amazing.
Yeah.
And I don't have a huge call volume, but
right.
like just getting
but that's not the point, right? That's not the point. And you said it best, right? The one thing that I would add to everything you shared is that when you are done with the interruptions, how are you clocking your time for that client? And I know that you are not billing hourly, but most of the law firms out there are, and we can talk about getting away from hourly billing, but you're clocking, you're on the clock for your client. So who's paying for the phone call you just took? Are you keeping the clock running? No, that wouldn't be ethical, right? You're stopping the clock. So now you're stopping the clock, starting the clock. How good are you at that? Most people are not good at it. So what they do is they'll do 2 hours of work on a client and they will have taken 4 calls in between. And then they're sitting there saying, I didn't really work 2 hours because I took those 4 calls. So I think I need to shave a half hour off. So you're estimating, and you're always estimating in a way that's against you and not against your client, because you don't feel right, giving them the short end of the stick. So who's getting the short end of the stick? You are. So, and then what about that context switching? Who's paying for that? And that, so it all becomes this very muddy situation where it's like, that's part of the problem of why you can't bill for the services that you're doing, because you feel like, oh, this shouldn't have taken me this long. Yeah, it shouldn't have taken you that long because you got interrupted 17 times. And you're right, your client shouldn't be paying for that. But that's why in Clio's legal trends report, they're constantly highlighting how drastically different the actual amount you collect is from the actual amount of hours that you work.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was just about to say, and we've all been there on invoicing day where you see your time tickets all added up and then you think, holy, like I cannot send this bill to the client. I didn't really take all that time, did I? That's insane. And then you write it off.
Right. And then and then you're not charging for 25 an hour. You're now charging $275 an hour because you wrote off all that time. So to put time management into a quick bubble, what you said was remove distractions, create a system or a framework around your time. You called it calendaring, but I think that it's basically creating time blocks where now I'm doing lawyer work. Now I'm answering emails. Now I'm doing, and put that on your calendar so that people aren't scheduling times with you in between when you're supposed to be doing those things. And the last thing is starting to delegate some of the work. And the first thing to delegate is the thing that's the most intrusive, which checks the 2 boxes we just said, which is to have that phone call answered by someone else. So yes. Time management check. That is the number one thing that you think that a solo attorney who's struggling to see profit from their business should be focusing on to change the script and to start to reverse the trend and get things to work in their favor. What's the second thing?
Oh, I like how you turn my 3 things into one thing. You're a terrible person, Moshe. Okay. I think the second thing is just to keep, I don't want to say delegating because I want to say automating, but I'm afraid of scaring people because once I start talking about automating, a certain amount of lawyers listening to this, just their eyes roll back in their head and they're like, oh, I don't know how that works. But
can I interrupt you for 1 second?
Yes.
Okay. Because there are going to be people who say, I don't know how that works. And I think that this is a very good place to talk about who, not how, right? When you hear Jess say automation and your mind goes to, I don't know how that works, or I'm not good with technology, or I can't figure that out, you immediately jump the most important thing in business. And that is, you don't need to know how it works. You shouldn't know how it works. You should not go and figure it out. What you should do is you should go to Google and find somebody who does know how it works, who could figure it out, and you should pay them to figure it out for you.
Yes. Amen.
Now talk about automation.
Okay. So there are things that you do that are annoying, that you don't like, or that just suck up little minutes of your day, right? So you meet someone and they give you the business card and you have to like hard code in their name, their address, their phone number. Well, wouldn't it be better if you met someone because you use online calendaring you already know their name, their phone number, their email, because your online calendaring system collects that automatically. And then you have a Zap from Zapier, which is like if you think of Star Trek, it's like the universal translator that speaks all the languages and translates between the different little computer programs. And it says, hey, Acuity Scheduling, this person, Tim Smith's name, phone number, and email. I would like to tell Microsoft Outlook contacts this information and create a new contact for Jess. And so I have all kinds of these things set up where, lawyers are like, well, it only takes 2 seconds and it's really not a big deal. But when you add up all of those minutes and all of those little to-dos and all those little moments where you're like, oh yeah, I got to add Tim Smith to contacts. That card is still on my desk. That's all sucking away your energy and taking your time. So automating all of the things like that you can frees up more of your time to be billable, which is what you need when you're running a small shop. And I don't care if you're a solo or like a 5-lawyer firm, that totally applies to everybody in your office.
Absolutely. And automation can be as simple as contact entry and then transference between systems so that you're not doing double and triple and quadruple data entry for the same information. But it could also be automating certain parts of the customer service and client experience process or the sales and marketing process, so that you're not dropping the ball, so that things are not relying on you. Because how many of us have been in the mode where, oh, I need to get clients, and all of a sudden I'm sending out newsletters to people and I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And now I get 2 or 3 clients and now I'm serving those clients and we completely forget about the fact that we need clients. And now 3 months goes by and nobody hears from us, because I'm busy serving those clients I got. And now I finish those engagements and I turn around, I'm like, holy crap, I don't have any work to do.
Right. And being a business owner, you have to always be farming. You have to always be planting seeds that will grow into work later, right? So you can't do that. And we know that, but it's hard to do all the things. So like, to your point, one of the things I've automated is our intake process, but even before that, like the sales process, right? So somebody reaches out and says, oh, Jess, I'm interested in starting a nonprofit. And I heard you're just the lawyer to help me. And I'm like, yes, I am. And we're going to respond to them as quickly as possible. That's number one. So like, we're going to respond as a real human being, like, hey, so-and-so, yes, we can help you with that. That's great. If you'd like to schedule an appointment to talk about that, click here to use our online calendar process. And then we BCC a special email address that adds them to an active campaign, which is like MailChimp, Constant Contact, a drip campaign and I say in the email, or my assistant does, like, hey, we're going to send you some more information about our firm. And then over the next 7 days, there's a little welcome sequence that drips out to them that says, hey, hi, I'm Jess. Like, hey, this is an automated email, just being real. Like, I just wanted to tell you more about my law firm, and here's who we are, and here's what we do. And then like 3 days later, it's like, hey, how are you? You might want to see some client testimonials from my firm. Here's some links to YouTube where you could watch those. And it's just like, it systematizes and automates that process. So when I was doing it myself, I'm no longer having to do it. And now Megan, who works with me, I'm not paying her $25 an hour or whatever it is to go out and send those emails and to be consistent every single time.
And let's be real, because when you were doing it yourself, there were times where you're like, oh crap, I forgot to send the YouTube testimonial video. Now they're coming into this meeting and they didn't see how awesome we are.
Or I'll have to manage. And some client made me mad when I respond to the potential client, and I have a little toot that I'm not even aware of in my, email because I'm just in a bad mood today. Like, no, we don't want that.
Right.
I want it to be quality every time.
So what automating does in that example is it doesn't just save you time. It doesn't just save you the cost of having someone else do it, but it creates consistency around what you're trying to represent and what you're trying to create from the beginning, from the initial touch point through the customer service experience to the end of client engagement. And you can automate getting reviews from clients. You can automate, like, there's so much of that communication can be automated, because if you start to sit down and think about all your different interactions with your clients, The only ones that are specific are when you're actually in the heat of their matter. But before and after, and even somewhere in between, there's always stuff that is pretty much the same from client to client. And whenever you have the same, you should be thinking automate. And you can go crazy. I mean, like I have coaching clients that have, implemented something called Loya, which was recently bought by Clio. And Loya is a document automation platform where it takes time to get this right, but you can build in logic and you can have them fill in the information so that you can literally churn out completed legal documents that you would have spent hours to draft, and have them input the information, and it spits out a completed legal document that now all you need to do is spend 30 minutes to an hour reviewing. And if you're a flat fee practice, if you're doing a subscription model, if you're doing any of those things where you're not billing hourly, you now can charge what you would have been able to charge before, which is $1,800, $2,000, $2,500 for that document, and you spent an hour on it. And now you're charging $2,500 an hour
exactly. That's exactly it. And even if you bill hourly, you really want to pay your paralegal to cut and paste the name, the address, no, you don't. Like they're still going to need to do all the formatting and check it over and whatever, but there's no reason that you can't just have that information available and use document automation to like get the thing started. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think that when you, because I think automation is huge, especially when you're solo. See, I have the law firm growth formula. It's a framework I created where we basically go from plan to grow to scale. In the grow phase, when they're in the grow phase, name of the game is maximizing your why is the word escaping me? Is that you're hate when this old, happens to you? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Getting old. I am not.
All those years old. Of parenting.
I'm not getting
years
old.
Off your life and your brain.
Yes, and you multiply the years of parenting times the quantity of kids, right? I got 6 kids, so it's like
there you go.
Right,
you're like 92 internal clock. Yeah.
It's like dog years. Oh my gosh. Anyway, capacity is the word I was looking for. So when you're in the grow phase, the name of the game is maximizing your capacity. So your capacity is fixed. It's that 1-lane highway. So how do we push more through that 1-lane highway? Well, we do it by getting a faster vehicle. You can't fit more vehicles there, but you get a faster vehicle. And it's you are the vehicle, right? So how do you make yourself faster or be able to perform more? It's by getting as much of what you're doing off your plate, which includes even the legal work. And sometimes it's handing it off to a paralegal, to an assistant. But if you look at technology first and you look at automation first, so I have a methodology, the DAD methodology, which I got from my coach, which I teach to my clients, which is delete, automate, delegate. Every time that you're looking at a task, you should be saying, do we even need to be doing this? And if we don't need to be doing this, let's get rid of it. Let's stop doing it. Or is there something else that we could do that would eliminate it, right? So maybe we have to be doing it in the current form, but if we did it a different way, we wouldn't have to be doing it anymore. And then we should be looking and saying, can we automate this process? Now, not everything should be automated. If it's going to cost you more to automate than it would cost you to do it manually for the next 15 years, then it probably shouldn't be automated. But we are so far advanced with our technology today and our capabilities that so much of what we're doing could be automated. We simply just need to understand that it could be. And then the rest is, literally hire a teenager on your street and say, here, I'll pay you $25 an hour. Come in here and figure out how to automate this stuff for me. And they will figure it out for you.
It's not a $50,000 project. Like people listen to me talk sometimes and they're like, I can't do all those things you mentioned. It's like, you don't have to do all of the things. You just can start with one. There's so many no code solutions like Zapier, or, the things that integrate with Clio. Like just connect the tools you already have and get somebody on Upwork to help you do that. It's not going to be that expensive, I promise. People think it's like this huge undertaking. I'm like, I work with small charities, man. Like I don't have a bunch of money to throw at this stuff.
Right. Exactly. And really, it's not about it has nothing to do with who you're working with, right? Because I'm sure that you still charge your worth, right?
Mhm.
It has to do with increasing your capacity. It has to do with getting you to be closer to that attorney that you would have hired, who's doing 100% legal work, from who you are now, who's doing 50% legal work at maximum. Many solos that we're talking to are not even hitting 750 hours of
Well,
productive
right.
legal work.
If the point
Right?
is increase your time spent getting billable, then you got to get rid of some of this other stuff. You just have to. There's only
Yep.
so many, time is our most precious resource. There's only so many hours in a day.
Absolutely. Okay, awesome. So we've got 2 in the bag. What is number 3 for you?
Well, number 3, I just teed up with my last comment, and it's having boundaries. Because here's the thing, I think we as small firm business owners or solos tend to like kill ourselves and be on 24/7, and you're like answering the client's email at 10 p.m. and you're on the weekend, you're at the Timmy's T-ball game, and you're chatting with the client when you should be watching the T-ball. And the problem there is you're getting more and more burned out, and you cannot do your best work. You can't actually be that productive. If you're a parent, you're telling your middle schooler, your high schooler, it's more important to get a good night's sleep before the exam, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's why do we say that to our students? Because your brain is a more effective machine when it has fully rested, right? And so having good boundaries around, I am going to be done working. And yeah, maybe your life is such that you've got to go back and like hit the desk at 9 p.m. for some reason for an hour. But telling yourself, I'm clocked out from this time to this time. And so, like, I used to have to like do like a little, you can't see my hands, but I'm like waving them around like some sort of like seal over my desk. Like, I am done with this right now, and I am walking away, to tell my brain, like, take a break from this. And then setting those boundaries with clients so that they understand that you are not their slave that is going to like respond 24/7 to every little thing all the time. And teaching the clients what your reasonable boundaries are will do so much for your productivity, because you will hit the desk every day having the time to manage things, having automated away a bunch of stuff, and knowing like I took time for myself or for my family. I'd had fun. I like did something other than be at the beck and call, and you won't be as burned out. And that just, it does so much for your ability to concentrate and like bill time and be a lawyer.
Absolutely. I agree with you 1,000%. I think that the more that you get good at boundaries, the more productive you get. It almost goes hand in hand with the first thing that you shared. Because when you don't, like, when you think, oh, I have all this time later that I can get to it, you're going to punt everything to later. So now you're busy from 7 p.m. to midnight because you allowed that to happen. But if you said, no, my end of day is at 4:30, like, I got to get this done between now and 4:30, you're going to just get down and do it. And it's going to just make you more productive. And so they go hand in hand with each other. And I love these things that you shared. And I know we're almost out of time. I'm going to share one bonus from me, because I gave you 3. So I'm going to take one. And that is how you price your services. I know that we touched on it as something that, oh, well, maybe we'll get to talk about this, but whether you're billing hourly or whether you're looking at some alternative fee arrangement, and even if you're contingency, you always want to be looking at what is the average client value that I have for my clients. So if you're billing hourly and your average engagement is 4 hours and you're charging $300 an hour, so your average client value is $1,200. The name of the game is, how do I get my average client value to increase? How do I get somebody who's currently paying me $1,200 to pay me $1,500, $2,000, $2,500? And if you start to look at that, number and say, I can move the needle on this, I can make this work, you can double your revenue by doubling your average client value. And if you are willing to go out on a limb and switch things up, so let's say that your average is $1,200, and you turn around and you say, I'm going to make this flat fee. And I'm going to, instead of doing four hours, I'm going to make this flat fee and I'm going to charge $3,000 for it. They don't need to know how many hours it's taking.
Exactly.
All they care about is the fact that it's not going to cost me a penny more than $3,000 to get the solution. And now you've essentially more than doubled the amount of revenue you're collecting. And now if you get even better at automation and time management, those things that we mentioned, all of a sudden you've increased the ability for you to move that car down that highway way faster than you were doing before. So I think that the three things you shared are awesome and massive and powerful. And I think that if you couple those with really honing in on your pricing and taking fear out of the equation and just going for something that is bold and audacious and crazy, is really going to make you explode in a great way.
Totally. I had a great coach, Roy Ginsburg, who's like a brilliant. He's like a little like Jewish grandpa kind of guy, and he would just every year he would be like, "Okay, you have to raise your rates." And every time I raised my rates when I was hourly, I would have to practice saying it out loud in the mirror, right? Because you're just like, my rate is, like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm saying that to you. But just practice it in the mirror. And then my friend John has a rule at his firm where they do like all flat fee billing. He's like, if people say yes to a price 3 times in a row, I need to raise the price, even if it's just a little bit, because you're not getting any pushback, right? So it's like, just raise it $50. And so those are just a couple of hacks for the folks who are going like, oh, I don't know if I can do it.
Right.
You can. It just takes a little practice.
Yeah, I had this exact conversation today in a previous conversation. Today's my recording day, so this is like my 4th or 5th recording that I'm doing, and the conversation was, somebody said, my close rate is 100%, and I said, well, if your close rate is 100%, you're not charging enough. You have to be charging enough that you're getting people to say no, because that is what is going to allow you to filter out the clients that want to work with you, at the clients that are not willing to pay the piper to work with you. And so that is like a massive indicator. So that's right along those lines of, if I get 3 yeses, it's like, if my close rate doesn't get no's in it, then I absolutely need to flip the script on this and change the math. So I love this, and we're out of time. So really great conversation. Usually I close out with what is like one piece of advice that you would give, but we spent the entire episode with the 3 pieces of advice. So I'm not going to put you on the spot for another one. What I would like to do is give you an opportunity to share how somebody can, get in touch with you, follow up with you, maybe join your community. I think we gave the URL at the beginning, but I'll just let you pitch it as well. And I really appreciate you being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. If you want to be pen pals with me, you can find me at hackyourpractice.lawyer. And my whole kind of thing is, I'm not selling anything. I'm just sort of going first. And so I decided, well, if I'm going to live out there on the edge of like doing all the things, I might as well share my journey with other lawyers. So it's kind of like, if you are feeling nervous but excited and you want to grow your firm, one way to feel like you're not doing it all alone is to be pen pals with me. So awesome. Come on over.
Awesome. Love it. Love it. So go to hackyourpractice.lawyer. We're going to link that up in the show notes. Folks, if you enjoyed this episode, we bring awesome guests just like Jess to this podcast on the regular every Thursday. So just hit that subscribe button. Make sure that you're getting notified when we release new episodes. We're here twice a week, every Tuesday and Thursday. Tuesday, it's just me, yours truly, right behind the microphone, sharing whatever's on my mind. Sometimes it might actually be valuable. And then on Thursdays, we have amazing guests that come on, and those are valuable every single time. Jess, really appreciate you being here today. Folks, we'll catch you on Tuesday. Take care. Enjoy. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for tuning into the Profit with Law podcast. Your feedback is extremely valuable to us, as well as helping us reach more people with this valuable content. Please leave us a rating and review in your favorite podcast directory. Join us again next time when we are back with even more strategies to profit with law.